Hello everyone, Ace here, and today let's talk about how short Fat Otaku has decided to continue to lie about Corey Comperatore by falsely claiming that he did not protect his family in his final moments. Keep in mind, Corey Comperatore was killed all the way back in July, and Dev has been openly lying about him since at least late August. And here we are in October, with Dev still using the same tired lies as ever, all of course done to claim both sides are equally bad, no matter how much worse the left is, mind you. This latest discussion began as a thread which started out in mid-September, and though at the time was about Dev, did not include him in the actual discussion. That was until he appears to have found it on October the 8th and chose to respond to this particular thread, where at NHC1993 said, quote, "No douche, he went out of his way to shit on the guy who died during the first assassination attempt, and his take on net neutrality has aged like milk." Dev decided to respond by stating, quote, "No, I didn't, you're confusing me with Destiny." To which at NHC1993 responds by stating, quote, "Correction, you called his family liars." To which Dev asks, "Was I wrong?" Now, longtime viewers will no doubt know that Dev was in fact wrong, and I have already done a video explaining in detail how he was wrong. So for the sake of saving everyone's time, as well as providing you the relevant information, here is the section of that video where I explain how Dev is wrong, along with him explaining how he believes that the family are lying about the fate of Corey Comperatore.
Yeah, people are saying Dev just called the family of the man who was murdered a liar. People are like jumping in on this now. You know what? Yeah, actually I am at this point. So, you know what? Here, I'll put my foot in my mouth one final time. Because why the fuck not, okay? Arch, you probably can't show it on stream, so don't worry about it, because you'll just get your channel fucking nuked. But did you see the video? The alternate angle of the shooting when it came out?
Nope, I did not. I probably did, but I don't remember.
So there was like another video from the crowd. I know Artemis saw it because Artemis and I talked about it. There's a video. There's another video of the shooting where you can actually see the firefighter who got shot, and he didn't jump onto his family to protect them. That didn't happen. He just got shot.
Having actually found the footage myself after some searching, I would ultimately have to disagree with that assessment. Despite the grim nature of the footage itself, I wouldn't actually call the content graphic, and for reasons that are going to become very painfully apparent. Because here is the damning proof that Dev has to provide, showing that Mr. Comperatore's family lied about him. I have this footage on loop because it's only 4 seconds long, but you may have noticed that zoomed out you can't actually tell what's going on. In fact, even when zoomed in to where Mr. Comperatore was at the time that he was hit, you still can't really tell what's going on, at least not at a glance. You certainly can't positively ID him by this footage alone. Fortunately, there is a secondary piece of footage in which it is far easier to see Mr. Comperatore. However, he is ultimately visually blocked at the exact moment that he was hit, though we are able to see his hat in flight at the end of the footage. With these pieces of information for reference, it is at that point possible to potentially ID Mr. Comperatore in the first footage once it's zoomed in. However, due to the limited quality of the actual footage, it's almost impossible to tell what he is exactly doing at the exact moment he gets hit. Though if you slow the footage down, you will notice that he begins to move forward before he gets hit, suggesting that yes, he was in the process of moving to cover his family, as they have claimed. It's also, as grim as it may seem, worth noting the sheer distance that his hat flew upon the moment he got hit. I bring this up because typically, if a hat gets shot off, it has the habit of falling right by the person's feet. This is because typically the direction of travel for the bullet is almost completely perpendicular to the direction of travel that the hat must take in order to be removed off of your head, i.e. in most circumstances the bullet will be traveling predominantly horizontally, whereas the hat needs to be moved vertically in order to be removed. The fact that Mr. Mr. Comperatore's hat appears to have flown about 30 feet, give or take, suggests that he was likely bending over and leaning down at the time that he was hit, making the direction of travel the hat needs to take far more in line with the direction of travel that the bullet itself took. And bending over, at the very bare minimum looking downwards, is something that would be done by someone in the opening stages of beginning to protect their family in the manner described. So yes, it would appear that short Fat Otaku did indeed lie about the fate of Corey Comperatore, and did so ironically, if grotesquely, in the name of what he describes as facts. Because according to Dev, this footage is irrefutable proof that cannot be challenged or contested in any way whatsoever that Mr. Comperatore's family lied about his actions that day. As you can see, there is actual video evidence to show that Dev is factually wrong about Corey Comperatore. And yes, the video evidence is blurry. It is difficult to make out. It's still, though, far better than the video evidence that Dev tried to use to defend his claim. As later on, when pressed, Dev states, quote, "Here's the alt angle. He passes behind somebody's head so we don't see it happen. Based on the amount of time between him not noticing the first shots and his hat flying off into the crowd after getting shot, there's no way he had time to dive on anyone." But is that actually true? To answer this, I took the liberty of timing the footage to see just how long Mr. Comperatore had to react. In terms of reacting to the gunshots, Mr. Comperatore had about 4 seconds to react before he was actually hit. That's not a great amount of time, but it is certainly more than enough to react, and thus begin to dive on your loved ones in order to protect them. Though it is admittedly clear that he was slow to realize the danger that he was in. As a certain portion of those 4 seconds, he is still visible. So let's be as charitable as possible to Dev, and only count the amount of time that he was not visible in the footage, which, taking that into consideration, is still over 2 seconds of time. 2 seconds that Dev cannot account for, the 2 most critical seconds in this entire conversation that you could absolutely begin to dive on someone within, and yet, despite this extremely inconvenient fact for Dev, he still decided to try to originally present the footage as showing Corey Comperatore the moment he got shot. Well, I say present, but he went out of his way to claim that the video was too graphic to actually show anyone originally, until I showed it and demonstrated that he's just lying through his teeth.
Arch, you probably can't show it on stream, so don't worry about it, because you'll just get your channel fucking nuked. But did you see the video? The alternate angle of the shooting when it came out?
Nope, I did not. I probably did, but I don't remember.
So there was like another video from the crowd. I know Artemis saw it because Artemis and I talked about it. There's a video. There's another video of the shooting where you can actually see the firefighter who got shot, and he didn't jump onto his family to protect them. That didn't happen. He just got shot.
But wait, there's more. Because did you realize that Corey Comperatore is secretly the right wing's George Floyd? Well, the reason I bring that up is that this is the excuse that Dev has decided to utilize to try to defend his attempts at lying about Corey Comperatore. As Dev goes on to later state, quote, "But this story is the right wing's George Floyd. They have a narrative, you go off narrative even with evidence or good reasoning, and they will attack you irrationally." Except Dev hasn't provided evidence that supports his claim. He has instead provided evidence that directly contradicts his claim. But then there is the ridiculousness of him comparing Corey Comperatore to George Floyd. As at Whiskey Silver Ball says, quote, "Did you compare a junkie criminal overdosing leading to riots and murder to an innocent man being shot by an Act Blue donor?" To which Dev responds by stating, quote, "If I compared an apple to an orange, would I be saying that apples are the same things as oranges? You used up wet wipe." What Dev seems to fail to understand here, or let's be honest, willfully chooses to ignore, is the fact that not all comparisons are automatically good comparisons. Saying that Corey Comperatore and George Floyd are comparable exclusively because Republicans and Democrats respectively chose to remember their respective names after their lives had been lost, is essentially taking up the position that because two things have exactly exactly one thing in common with each other, that they are therefore comparable, and therefore this is a good comparison. Let's apply Dev's logic and reasoning here to Dev. Short Fat Otaku breathes air. You know who else used to breathe air when he was still alive? Jeffrey Dahmer. Therefore, Short Fat Otaku is clearly the Jeffrey Dahmer of the fake centrist anti-liberal political camp that includes Short Fat Otaku. Keep in mind, Short Fat Otaku rejects liberal principles the moment it is politically convenient for him to do so, and he also fundamentally hates actual centrists such as myself. But the key takeaway here is that me saying that Short Fat Otaku is the Jeffrey Dahmer of anti-liberal fake centrists, well, that's just a comparison, bro. I'm not actually saying that Short Fat Otaku is the same as Jeffrey Dahmer. It's just a comparison, because they happen to have something in common. And you're being irrational if you dare criticize that comparison, because clearly all comparisons are good comparisons and there is no such thing as a bad comparison. At least if we utilize the standards laid out by Short Fat Otaku himself. So you simply must accept the fact that Short Fat Otaku is the Jeffrey Dahmer of anti-liberal fake centrists. There is something else though I do need to bring up with Dev's own rhetoric, which is something that he simply refuses to accept. That being that his own rhetoric here is fundamentally undermining him. Let's be clear here, Dev is trying to make this comparison exclusively to try to push his both sides are equally bad narrative. Except if you are to seriously compare and contrast how the left and right reacted respectively to the deaths of George Floyd and Corey Comperatore, well, that fundamentally undermines the narrative of both sides are equally bad. When George Floyd died, the result was not just months of rioting. It was not just billions of dollars in damages. It was not even just dozens of dead. It was also examples of small but nevertheless armed rebellions such as the Chaz, which at that time declared itself to be independent from the United States. Compare this again, if you will, to what happened following the death of Corey Comperatore. It did not see riots. It did not see billions of dollars in damages. It did not see dozens of deaths. And the death of Corey Comperatore did not result in examples of armed rebellions. My point is that if Dev is so desperate to try to paint both sides equally bad that he feels compelled to compare Corey Comperatore to George Floyd, as though he is the closest thing the right has to George Floyd, well, that's a pretty damning statement about just how much worse the left is. It fundamentally proves that no, both sides are not equally bad. The left is clearly far, far worse. And Dev, in his sheer utter ineptitude and desperation, has been the one to provide this proof. Now, for those curious, I will of course be providing links in the description below to this particular thread so you can check it out for yourself if you should so desire. There are multiple branches to this thread, so I will be providing multiple links. But in any case, this has been Ace. Hope to see you guys again soon. Take care. Ace out.